everyone. It's me, Tanis McRae, and you're listening to Talking to Tanis, Evolve on Purpose, right here on Transformation Talk Radio. The intentions for my show have always been to highlight the systems, the processes, and the people, and now the books that I have found help me in my self-awareness journey. In my last show, I was so excited to have the Gene Keys Delta coordinator, Pia Mark, with me. It's a program that I took part of last year. Absolutely recommend it to anyone. If you missed that one, you can check it over on my YouTube and or go to my website and or go to Transformation Talk Radio and listen to it as a podcast for sure. And so if you ever interested in the Gene Keys or the Delta, absolutely suggest you go back and see that one. I noticed that one thing I have never talked about is I always mention my self-awareness journey. And I don't think that I've ever actually explained what that is. I'm going to actually take care of that oversight right now, just in case, I assume everyone knows the self-awareness journey, but you can't assume. That doesn't work very well. So a self-awareness journey, simply stated, but has maybe a lifelong process. But a self-awareness journey is literally deciding to live, instead of living your life from the outside in, you begin to live your life from the inside out. So what do I mean by that? I mean that outside in is largely a reactive life. You're reacting to the stimulus, circumstances, anything that's coming toward you from the outside. This is a largely survival-based experience. So you are trying to survive the traumas. You're trying to enjoy the times when you're not just surviving, but generally speaking, you're in reaction to a lot of the things that are happening. And so that actually creates, again, an excess of fight, flight, freeze, because that's what we use. Our primal being uses to do fight, flight, freeze. And so we get sort of a lot of tension. We get a lot of stress. We get a lot of opportunities to experience those things. And a self-awareness journey to me is when you embark on a process to start going out of reaction and going into responding. So reaction is outside in, responding is inside out. And that's why at the end of every show, I say the same thing. If you don't decide who you are in the experience will decide who you are. And that is like quintessentially, that's the self-awareness journey. It's deciding I am not going to live from my outside in. I'm going to live from my outside or inside out. And that's going to be in charge of how do I want to respond and who do I want to be. And it's a process of sort of breaking out of your conditioning. So it's conditioned to react, conditioned to survive. And we all know not one of us is going to survive our lives, if you will, from a physical standpoint. We're all going to be born, and at some point we're going to transition, and we're going to pass away. We're going to die. And so it's this, they always say it's the hyphen between the two dates that matters, and it is. And so a self-awareness journey is when you decide, I'm going to actually do this consciously. I'm not going to just allow fight, flight, freeze to decide who I am, but I'm actually going to take my consciousness, and I always say self-empowerment is actually the right to choose. So I'm going to take my right to choose who I am with me on my journey. And that doesn't mean life stops. I mean, there's still things that are going to happen that you will react to. But in the self-awareness, you're going to start to react to them from that really deep space of inner knowing and knowing who I am and who I want to be. And then in the law of attraction, and the law of opposites, things that you start to become start to show up from the outside. So I guess a little bit long explanation of what self-awareness journey is, but I really wanted to make certain that everybody really understood, what does that actually mean? That's my definition, of course. I can't talk about anybody else's definition. That's my definition and my process. Is I want to continue to allow myself to live from inside here and then respond to what's going out there, because life is going to happen and I want to be in response more often than I'm in reaction. Which brings me to what I call my trifecta. Not horse racing, but my trifecta of books that I found at the beginning of my journey and continue to add to my journey. So these are books that I've used for like 15 years. That's staying power for a book. And so I split them up. One is about the body, and it starts to connect the body to that consciousness. The other is focused in more in on the mind, and that connects the mind with the consciousness. And then the last book is the one that connects the soul. So the soul with the consciousness. So our understanding of the soul with the consciousness, because of course our soul is already our consciousness and vice versa. But it was bringing them to our conscious awareness and going from there. So the first book, which is the book that starts to connect the body and the consciousness and consciousness of choosing, is a book called You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. I love this book because it starts at that most tangible level, which is the body. Remember, just to remind you, we have, in my estimation, four main bodies that we need to be in charge of the health of: our physical body, our emotional body, our mental body, and our spiritual body. So we're going to be able to sort of touch on these with each one of these books that look after all of them. But the Louise Hay book is the one that starts to connect the body with our consciousness, body with our emotions. And I'll tell you a little story. So my mom was ill for, I'm going to say, 40 years, and the doctors couldn't really find out why she was ill. She sort of symptoms all over the place. She was just basically lacked thriving. And for years and years and years, they tried everything. They were amazing, but they could not really ever pinpoint what was going on. And at some point, we found a wonderful naturopath who did kinesthetic muscle testing. And she said, Mrs. Farnsworth, I know you have parasites. And I believe that you're not allowed to thrive with these parasites. And so physically, she started to get rid of these parasites, which really helped her physical health. And then we realized that she didn't remember how to live like someone who was healthy, because she'd lived so long in a state of managing her illness that didn't manage her health, because she started very quickly. And this is the book the naturopath suggested. She's like, go ahead and find this Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life. And my mom took this book and she decided to go through each one of the exercises. And I know that if you're listening on the radio, you won't be able to see this. But if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook Live, you'll be able to see that this is my copy of You Can Heal Your Life. And inside of it, there are chapters of exercises, self-awareness exercises you can do. And my mom decided she's going to go through each one of these chapters and she is going to heal herself. And guess what happened? She healed herself. She went from eating 12 foods and be allergic to all sorts of synthetic material, to all smells, I was really living an isolated life, to actually, she was on a bus to Reno with her friend. And we laughed, and she had her first Thanksgiving meal that she could eat everything. And she literally worked herself through from a 40-year illness and allergies and sensitivities to a thriving life, which she still enjoys today at 88 years old. And so, and that was when she was 70, so 18 years ago. So she decided to really commit, and that's a really important part, commit to that process and commit to the consistency of that process. So how does this connect the body and the emotions? The way it connects it is through self-awareness again, so talking in the mirror, dealing with the things that happened when you were little. And I won't go into specifics because I really want you to be able to do this and have your own experience of it. But one of the best things of this book is in the back, and it's an appendix that shows the physical thing that's happening in the body, the emotional cause, so it connects the body and the emotions, and then it gives you a mantra or a affirmation or a new thought pattern that will help you start to break out of that conditioning. So let's just take one just at random, the tongue. Okay, so if you're having issues with the tongue, the emotional that could be the emotional cause is that represents the ability to taste the pleasures of life and joy. So that sentence can lead you into your story. So what's happened to you before today, and go, what when am I not taking pleasure out of my life? When do I experience joy? When do I allow for myself to do that? And this starts the process of you realizing, oh, there's times I am not in pleasure, or since this happened. And you deal with that, and you literally start to actually heal the physical aspect of the tongue. Now, this, of course, also isn't the only thing. You have a physical body, you need to see a physical doctor. But why not deal with all the levels at the same time? So you've got your body part, you've got the emotional cause for it, and now you've got a new thought pattern. And I didn't read the new thought pattern, which I will do when we come back. And we'll talk a little bit more about Louise Hay. And then I would love to introduce you to the next book that goes through and helps you with the mind chatter and the constructions we make from the mind. So thank you for listening, and I'll see you when I get back. Hello, welcome back to Talking to Tanis Evolve on Purpose with me, Tanis McCrae, right here on Transformation Talk Radio. In this show, I am talking about the trifecta of books that I believe really put a great foundation in on my self-awareness journey, and really started to connect those bodies that I talk about: the physical body, the emotional body, the mental body, the spiritual body, the body of beliefs. That's what that one is. And I I started out with the book called Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life. And this is the one that really connects you to your body. So you start to pay attention to the body. Where is the discomfort in my body? What is the illness that's showing up? And again, this is not the end, be all, end all. You can't take anything to mean this is going to do everything. There is a marriage of everything. So you're going to marry the physical to the emotional. So you're still going to see your physical doctor. You're still going to move through this. Once something actually manifests in the physical body, it's very, very tangible. So don't forget that part. It's already been created. It's kind of like, I guess looking at your car and going, I'm going to uncreate that car. You can't really do that. I mean, you can have an accident, you could put it up into pieces, but really it's been created, it's here. And the same thing with once something moves through those energy bodies and it starts to manifest in the physical body, that usually means you've had it for quite a long time in the energy bodies. And now it's showing up in the physical body as to tell you, I'm here, I need you to work on this is what's going on. And wow, what a great tool. And what I loved about it was like, wow, I'm not just a ticking time bomb here. I have some measure of control over emotionally how healthy my body is, and that my emotional health actually translates to my physical health. I mean, that's a big aha, and that's a quantum leap, and that's a beautiful point of awareness. And I encourage you, if you don't do any other books, this one. This is an incredible one. So before we went to break, I had just randomly chosen tongue. And so it's the ability to taste the pleasures of life with joy. And that's the emotional cause. So you can start to journal on that or find out what that's all about. There's also a new thought pattern you can bring in. So I rejoice in all of my life's bountiful givingness. And so if now you can start to focus maybe in on giving, on bounty, on generosity, and that starts to counter pleasure and joy, non-pleasure, non-joy, and starts to create more joy. We know that a lot of joy comes from service to others, not at the expense of the self, but just generosity just generally makes you feel really good. I also had the appendix has also been available in a smaller book, which is just the one there. It's a Heal Your Body book. I used to keep this in my purse, take it out at parties. I was super fun. No, I wasn't. Not everybody's always excited about this stuff as me. So that's the Louise Hay part of it, and that it connects the body to our emotions and the body to our consciousness, and it starts to work together. So the next one to grab onto, that's a good one. The next one to grab onto is the one that helps with the mind. Often we do not realize how undisciplined our mind is, how unfocused our mind is. We have zero control over the thoughts coming into our head, but we do have 100% control over what we decide stays, what we'll act on, what we'll decide is true, what's not true. But we are in a constant, even while you're dreaming, your mind is working. And so we want to bring some focus and attention and consciousness to our thoughts. It's probably, I'm going to say, because I'm in the astrological sense, I have a lot of air in my chart. And so I love to live up in the thought aspects. And so one of my biggest challenges was actually to bring more focus to the mind. One of the things my mind did that was very good at was telling stories. And sometimes I did it for just pure entertainment. But I realized that sometimes my brain would make a story and then I would believe it to be true. This is where gossip comes from. We may have one or two facts, but we'll take those facts and we'll flesh them out, and we'll create a body of work around it, a story. And even though it's based in truth in those couple of facts we had, speculation comes in, but at some point you forget you speculated and you're telling the story. And there's all this sort of body of work around those two facts that may actually not be true. It's a fun little exercise you could try for yourself and see, when am I just relating facts, or when am I telling a big story? When have I fleshed it out and I'm telling this big story? And what parts of it are actually true? It's a humbling it's a humbling experience to do that with your own mind. And it's not really for anybody else's consumption. This is for you to become aware of, when am I telling a story and believing it? Or when am I just not telling a story and going, oh, well, that's the facts. Okay, well, what do I want to do with that? And who do I want to be in it? It's a really powerful thing. Took me several years, actually, and still continue to do exercises that help focus my mind so that I'm really thinking about what I'm thinking about and not just letting it sort of run rampant. And when it is running rampant in a lot of chatter, I actually sometimes just really allow that, and I just let it move through, but I don't grab on to any of it. It's just a loop playing in. And then I sometimes, usually creativity, I go and do something fun. I read a book or make a quilt, go for a walk, phone my children. Can't play with them anymore, they're older. But the book that I found really, really helped me with the focus of the mind is The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And I apologize to Don Miguel if I said that last name wrong, but Ruiz. So The Four Agreements is the book for the mind. Again, super beautiful, quick, easy read. But I go back to this book, I'm going to say, if not weekly, a few times a month. I still go back to the information in this book because it is so rich and so beautiful. I love that it is. I love that it is really pinpointing on that unfocused mind, which he calls the dream. So, huge spoiler alert. I'm going to talk to you what about what the four agreements are. So, the first agreement is be impeccable with your word, speak with integrity, say only what you mean, avoid using the word to speak against yourself and or to gossip about others. Use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love. So that's the first agreement. And what that's saying and what how I interpret this is, of course, bring some integrity to what you're saying. It's like I was saying earlier, really make sure you're just dealing with the facts, you're dealing with and deal with them kindly and generously. And everybody's fighting a battle here. You don't really know what's going on in anyone else's life. So criticism, opinion, and judgment don't really have a place in feeling better about yourself. And the other thing this brings up to me is the two voices. So the one that you have in your head and the one that you speak. So often we're very having a very big inner critic. And that inner critic goes off and off and off in your head, but on the outside, you're, oh no, I'm fine. Everything's going well. Good morning. Yeah. Well, that discrepancy, that separation can actually be very difficult to create some unity and symbiosis and some focus from. So what you want to start doing is the impeccable with your word is watching that what you're saying on the inside is also acceptable to say on the outside, to use your outside voice so that you're not having that struggle between those two voices. It's a good exercise. The second agreement, don't take anything personally. Nothing others do is because of you. What others say and do is a projection of their own reality, their own dream. When you are immune to the opinions and actions of others, you won't be the victim of needless suffering. Oh, this is such a juicy one. This is such a juicy one. This is the one, if you're going to spend some really quality time with, this is the one because we are such vulnerable beings. We do feel the opinions of others. We do care about what they think. We do care about the actions they're taking towards us. Can be very attached to how other people see us because it's through them that we want to see ourselves. And so we're hoping if I project this forward to them, they'll project it back and then I'll like me. I'll like me. But nobody else is having your life or your experience. And so they can't accurately give back to you who you really are. And so we do start to question that at such deep levels, and we start to seek approval. We start to seek love. We start to seek acceptance, and they can't do it. That's not their job. All those things need to arrive on the inside, to rise on the inside, to become a part of who you are on the inside, so that you can then bring them forward on the outside from this really beautiful place on the inside. And you don't need them from the outside, you just share them with people on the outside. And it's not now becoming what you need from others, but rather what you share with them and what they share with you. And you become the person who's in charge of how you feel in any situation. And that's a good one. That's a juicy one. And we're going to talk about that just a little bit more when we come back. And of course, we'll find out what the next two agreements are. So go grab yourself a glass of water or a cup of coffee, and we'll be right back. Hello, welcome back to Talking to Tanis with me, Tanis McCrae, right here on Transformation Talk Radio. And we are looking at what I call my trifecta of books. And it are the three books that I really feel create an incredible foundation for you to do a self-awareness journey with. And that self-awareness journey needs a foundation that builds on the physical, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual, the body of beliefs. And so I find that having read these three books and continuing to use them as a reference, that they create this incredible foundation. And of course, anyone I've suggested them to have said that as well, that we have this incredible foundation that you can build. Uh, really understanding how you can interface with these bodies and how you can use them to create a self awareness, a conscious life where you get to decide who you are in it rather than be in complete and absolute reaction. So, this last agreement, because we were just talking about the four agreements, and the second agreement that we were just talking about is don't take anything personally. And I truly believe if you just took that one agreement and you sort of ran with that one, and you're like, okay, I am going to just be the observer of what people are saying and being and doing and how they're treating me. I'm really just going to go into the observation of that, absolutely knowing that they're only ever going to give a distorted version of me because it's going through them. And so I'm really not going to take that as who I am. I'm going to listen and pay attention, then I'll decide from there. Wow, life changer right there. Absolute life changer. And it's an incredible thing. And I know lots of people are like, how do you not take it personally? They're being mean to you. You're going to take it personally for a few minutes. That's okay. You're a human. When I have time to reflect and to go into retrospection, that's when a lot of our work is done. You can use that as fuel. You can use that as something to figure out, well, why did I take it personally? What did I take personally? And you can start really plumbing your own depths there, because stuff's unconscious for a reason. You're not conscious of everything. So you got to have something that brings that to your consciousness. Why not somebody insulting you? Sounds horrible, but it's true. In my book, I call them wound pokers. I'm like, someone comes up and pokes you, and you're like, ow, don't poke me. Why are you doing that? You're so mean. Well, here's the thing. You could, instead of blaming it on them for poking you, could go, oh, that hurt. I did not know that wound was there. I did not know. Obviously, I'm not talking about real poking. I'm talking about emotional poking. But you're just like, oh, that really took that personally. I wonder why. Whoa, good work right there. Go find out why someone hurt your feelings. Just go find out why. And I'll tell you in here, in Don Miguel Ruiz says, the reason why that hurts is because someone's touched a wound in you. And now go find that wound and bring it to your consciousness and heal it. Why not? Oh, why not? You might have it in there for the rest of your life, for goodness sakes. The third agreement is don't make assumptions. Find the courage to ask questions and express what it is you really want. Communicate with others as clearly as you can to avoid misunderstandings, sadness, and drama. Good one. With just this one agreement, you can transform your life. I have a favorite response to somebody who asks me a question that I think's a little personal, or I don't really want to answer, or I'm not sure how to answer. And this agreement's actually what brought that answer to me. So when someone asks me something that I think's a bit too personal, or I maybe don't want to answer, I first ask them this question: why would you like to know? It's an important one, because when you say, why would you like to know? They have to go back in and decide, well, what is the motivation for asking that question? Am I just, wanting some gossip? Am I wanting fact finding? Am I trying to find out who you are? But I'll tell you, if they have a reason, they'll have it right now. If they don't, they were just fishing for something, and it's none of their business. So don't make assumptions, ask questions, let yourself find out the intention behind things. Don't assume. Even I've been married to somebody my husband, for 30 years. I can't make assumptions. I know him. We're all changeable people. And so ask. Don't- Let the courage be there to ask. It's okay. You'll be okay. The last one is always do your best. Your best is going to change from moment to moment. It will be different when you're healthy as opposed to sick. And under any circumstance, simply do your best, and you will avoid self judgment, self abuse, and regret. Hmm. What a great gift, right? What a great gift if you just, I did my best. I did my best. The other day, my husband and I were talking about regrets. And he said, that's a difficult one to overcome. How do you deal with regret? And I said, how you deal with regret is you allow it to live in your heart as a humbling, as a humility, as this is when I am not so proud of me. That's when I didn't agree with my choice or my action. And I feel regret. Let that be what decides what you're going to do next time. Because that feeling of sadness and regret, that's a really good way to make sure you don't do that again to someone or yourself. And what a gift. What a gift to take that in and remind yourself this is something I did, and I have a sadness around it. And it's going to be able, first of all, accept and forgive that I did it, and that I know I will use that not to repeat that action or that word or whatever it is. And that to me is do your best. It's like, I didn't know before that would hurt. And now I did it and I know it hurts. Or someone did that to me and I know it hurts. It hurt me. So doing your best, do your best and understand that stops a lot of self-judgment, which I'm going to tell you, if anything is going to create so much sadness, it's self-judgment, that self-criticism piece. Oh, we can be so mean to ourselves. We can be so mean. And when it's coming from the inside, that's a whole lot of different story than when it's coming from the outside. Maybe we can defend ourselves when it's coming from the outside, but it's a very difficult thing to defend yourself from when it's coming from the inside. And so this is another aspect of that self-awareness journey is going, I can sort of quiet that inner critic. I can start to empower myself. I can take back my right to choose. I can read the symptoms in my body and find how they're connected to my emotions. I can target the mind and I can say, what is going on in my mind? What am I thinking about myself that makes me not love myself? It's a really, really important aspect to continue to inquire about within the self. So that is the book that I recommend to work on focusing and bringing that mind chatter under to a quieter space. The next book. This one is very special to me, and it's extremely special because I have had the opportunity to actually meet the author and spend some real beautiful time with the author of this book. And meeting the author of a book gives you a little peek into not just the words they wrote, but where they come from in their life and how they interact with the world. And I think it just made this even more special. I mean, it was special. This book made me question the things I never thought to question. And it also gave me answers of questions I didn't even know I had and that I had asked many times in my life. I'd asked questions and I got answers, but they never seemed to ring completely true. And so I found this book and I started to read it. And I remember I couldn't read it all at once. I had to keep putting it down and picking it up and putting it down, picking it up because it was so rich and so deep. And I was able to land so much of it in my body. And if I had to pick one thing that I think underpins the foundation of what I do in my self-awareness journey and how I assist others, I point to this book. I point to this book. You can see It's a favorite. I don't know if you can see that, but I have 1,000,001 bookmarks in this book. And I'm going to save the title of this book for when we come back, because I know that it's so special to me that I know that you'll get an aha from it. I'm actually going to read a couple of passages from this one as well, and a couple of my favorites that really went to a space and answered some questions that I really love and really able to dig into. And actually, one of those things that I'm going to read actually set up my understanding of why I'm here as a human and why self awareness is related to consciousness. And what does that mean about bringing consciousness to my physical and awareness? What does that mean? And what does it do? And how can I operate from there day to day? So I'm not just working on healing, I'm actually working on creating my life. That's the beauty of this next book. It took me from just healing those things, the working on all the things that are happening in my outside world, really drove me inward, work on that inside world, and to start to really create from there. And I will tell you what that book is when I come back. Stay tuned. Hello, welcome back to Talking to Tanis with me, Tanis McCrae, on Transformation Talk Radio. Today, I have been talking about the books that I have used, and still use to create that foundation of self-awareness and consciousness. And before we went to break, I was setting it all up for this last book. And this last book is Conversations with God by Neale Donald Walsch. And I really want to do a shout out to Neale, because I've been able to have great conversations with him, and not just with God, with him, and to understand sort of really this incredible food for the soul that all of Neale Donald Walsch's books are, but especially the Conversations with God books, because they really do answer so many questions about why am I here and what am I doing and how can I do this? And I mean, you name it, he has touched upon it. And the Conversations with God books were the very first three books, 1, 2, and 3. And I have those in a they're all bound together in this complete Conversations with God, an uncommon dialogue by Neale Donald Walsch. And one of the most important things I found in there was actually it helped me understand, I guess, my humanness. What did I come here for? And in his book, he talks about it. And I just want to read that one passage. I just want to read a little bit of this one passage that really touched me and set up what I believe to be true. You may not believe to be true, and I don't, and you know what, you take it or leave it. But this spoke so deeply to me. And this is chapter 15 in book 3, the first paragraph. I want to tell you, my dearest children, that this matter of who you are and who you choose to be is of great importance, not only because it sets the tone of your experience, but because it creates the nature of mine. All of your life, you have been told that God created you. I come now to tell you this: you are creating God. That is a massive rearrangement of your understanding, I know, and yet it is a necessary one if you're going to go about the true work for which you came. This is the holy work we're up to, you and I. This is the sacred ground we walk. This is the path. And then I'll just pop to the end of the chapter. You, who you are, I am. You are defining God. I have sent you, a blessed part of me, into physical form that I might know myself experientially, as all I know myself to be conceptually. Life exists as a tool for God to turn concept into experience. It exists for you to do the same, for you are God doing this. That changed everything for me. That told me I'm the creator of my life. I'm the creator of taking something from a concept into experience and then using that experience to decide, who do I want to be? What an incredible aha that was for me. And it explained to me the quintessential idea of oneness, that we're an energy creating itself through experience. I have worked with thousands of people, and every person is so unique. We're not like golden retriever puppies. We all have this incredible experience. We've taken this concept, we've had an experience, and we've discovered something about ourselves in it. And I'll tell you, it gets me every time to understand I am a soul having a human experience. Why can't I also be a human experiencing my soul? Like, to me, this brings me such incredible joy. It brings me such love for myself that I'm the person who's in charge of how I feel about me, of how I feel about life, of how I feel about the world, how about I feel about everybody in it. It gives me comfort to know that's what I'm doing here. That's what I'm doing here. And also in the book, he talks about the elements of creation. And the elements of creation are thought, word, and deed. So at its first level, things are created from thought. Thoughts become things. Choose the good ones. Something moves from a thought into the spoken word. You start to talk about it. It starts to be expressed in some way. And now it creates even more. And it creates at a different level and it becomes more tangible. And then it creates in deed, it creates in action, it creates in the physical world. Everything, everything is created this way. The chair I'm sitting on started as a thought. And then some spoke that, oh, I have a great design for a chair. And then they drew it out and then they built it and it became made manifest. It became tangible. It's here. I'm sitting on it. I guarantee it's supporting me in space right now, this chair I'm sitting on. And it came through those elements of creation: thought, word, and then deed or action. And that's how we manifest. I create a thought. This is why you want to get in charge of your body. You want to get in charge of your emotions. You want to get in charge of your thoughts, because that's the first step of creation. And then the next step of creation is I'm gonna express this in some way, and through art, through reading, through writing, but mostly through living. And then as that moves through there into deed, into action, to take an action on it, it becomes made manifest in your life. I know it sounds deceptively simple, right? Deceptively simple. Thought, word, deed. But it's true. This is how we create. And I suggest this book to anyone, to everyone, when you really want to commit and into this self-awareness journey, you really want to go deep in. You really want to touch your soul. You want to touch your soul. You want to touch everybody else's soul. You want to meet your life through this soul purpose. You cannot go wrong with not one, any of his books. They're incredibly amazing. And so, Conversations with God by Neale Donald Walsch. So I hope you all enjoyed my trifecta of books. These are, again, the foundation, and worth your while, worth the while to invest in and keep and to have. And who do I want to be, and how much in charge of my health of those bodies do I want to be in? You can always catch me here at Transformation Talk Radio. And I will be back on the 19th of June, and I will be talking about change. Well, it's a big one right now. We're all going through a lot of change. Don't forget, I have a custom mentor program you can take part of. I have workshops that will come again in the fall. I don't have any going over the summer, but I have workshops coming in the fall. And you can always find me through my book, which of course is another great foundational book. It is called Talking to Myself, Evolving on Purpose. And in that book, I cover a lot of what I gleaned and what I sort of digested out of these books. And I talk about Louise Hay in that book, and I talk about conversations with God in my book also a lot. And so I'm going to leave you with my quote that I absolutely adore, and I want you to take it out into the world, into your world with you. If you don't decide who you are in the experience will decide who you are every time. So remember, who do I want to experience myself in as a body, as an emotional being, as my mind, and most especially as my soul? Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time. It's Tanis on Talking to Tanis. Evolve on Purpose.